I'm Debbie Godfrey, and this is the Positive Parenting Pep Talks podcast. In season 2, I'm answering your questions about parenting. So feel free to go to the link in the description and leave me a voice message, and I may answer your question on this podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and enjoy today's pep talk.
So do you have any success stories first off? I like to always start with a success story if possible, and then you can ask me your questions.
Probably the success has come in Chris and I just looking at each other and trying to be more calm about things, because I feel like everything has kind of been our routine has not been on. We haven't, there's been so many things going on, like trying to get back into a routine and just calming things down a little bit. Just because our kids are so different in ages, we have different struggles. We just passed the potty training stage with one, and we have another one trying to get a cell phone. So it's we have a lot of different problems. The one wanting to get the cell phone is way more difficult than the one trying to potty train the baby. So,
right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, good. And the teamwork is so helpful, and that's why I love when parents are able to do this together and be on the same team. It's just so nice to have that other person getting the information, not from you. Like when they get it from me, it's not so personal, because couples trying to teach each other stuff doesn't always go so well. Sometimes a parent can take the class and the other parent is totally on board with following the lead for the whole time, but that's not the most common is getting defensive if you're not on the calls, and from the person who's on the call saying, wow, I'm doing all this great stuff and you got to do everything I say and blah, blah, blah. Doesn't work so well usually. So
that would never work here. That would never work.
Okay, good. Yeah, so it's good that you both are on, and so that you can each kind of have your own interpretation and then have a point of communication, which it sounds like you're doing, that you're actually staying on the same team together, which is fantastic. And that goes a long way towards your kids' behavior too, because the parental relationship in the home can set the tone, the emotional tone for the entire family. So if parents are fighting even behind closed doors and resentful and not working things out, a lot of times the kids will be misbehaving and you won't even know why. You won't be able to put your finger on it. And it's just that tension, because our relationship is setting the tone for this whole thing. And so that's why if you're having trouble with your kids, sometimes I will ask, like, how's your relationship going? Are you doing date nights? Are you making sure that you're connecting? Because sometimes that will actually solve parenting issues without having to do anything to the kids. That just working on your couple relationship and making that more connected and loving, it filters down to the kids very quickly and immediately most of the time. So everybody making sure you keep a check on that. And if you are in this class and your spouse is not participating, tread carefully and don't try to teach them things they're not wanting to learn, and just do the best you can using this information and wait for them to ask, like, wow, what are you doing? That's great. And, and wanting to participate with you. So thank you for sharing that and giving me a little soapbox about my philosophy of couples. So why don't you go ahead and ask a question that you have?
Well, I know this week was about encouragement and praise, and I think that when I talk about the 12-year-old, I think was listening to the other day where it was talking about a report card, and your example was B's are okay. And we probably agree with that B's are okay if effort is put forth, but there's very minimal effort put forth in any type of homework activity. And then there's just a lot of when suggestions are made about how you should probably study for this, a lot of like, well, I don't need it. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to read the chapter again. I'm not going to do that again. And I know it's a control thing, but I just don't know how to remove my frustration. You just got a test grade back that is really low, and he refused to study. Or when I said, you should reread the chapter. What? No, I'm not doing that. And so,
okay, so is he in middle
like
school,
forcing him to do it would be like me sitting there holding his hand, reading him the actual chapter. I mean, I don't even, it's just like, okay.
Yeah, what grade is he in? Is he in middle school?
6. He's in 6.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, and let's see. Where do we go about this one? So my first curiosity is, where is his motivation to do well in school? And so I think I would kind of back up a little bit from the expectations first, if you can. And that was the idea behind the report card exercise, is just to take that moment when the report cards come home to be completely detached from the result and give yourself an opportunity to see what this kid thinks and feels. Mm-hmm, all of us obviously are going to be nervous and worried and judging and wanting to, keep them going and not make sure that they don't fall away. And it's very difficult for kids to meet our expectations about their schoolwork, other than the ones that, do it completely on their own and, get straight A's. And honestly, some of those even, there's even pressure coming from parents or from the child themselves. So figuring out your bottom line is something that you all have to do, because, and I had a learning consultant that I used when my kids were actually the same age. One was just going into middle school, and the other ones were a little younger, and I was like, what am I going to do? And I didn't want to be nagging, and I wasn't willing to ruin my relationship with my kids over grades, and yet I know grades are important, and that's a pretty big flip from most people. I mean, most people really are concerned with the grades. I kind of have a bigger view of that just personally. I always got good grades, and it wasn't hard for me. And I know it's hard for some kids, and not everybody fits into that mold. And so I just have a lot of compassion that school's not easy for everybody like it was for me. And I felt that way with my kids. But at the same time, we want our kids to go to college and, survive. And so, it's a
I think that's
conflict.
where the frustration, I think that's probably where our frustration comes in, because school is really easy for him. Like, it is easy. But this year, he needs to do a little bit more. It's not like massive.
After, right.
Right. It's just a little bit more, and just that little bit more is like, no, I'm not. I've never done that before. I'm not going to do it now.
And what are the other things that he does? So is he in sports, or is he in music?
He is. He's very competitive. He's very competitive. He's in sports. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And do they have any minimal expectation for him?
Sometimes, and I think that he'll get. And sometimes he'll give effort, and sometimes he won't. And that's where our frustration level comes in. Is he's a very smart kid. He's a very talented kid, but then he just won't do it. And I almost think it's like it's back to the control thing. Like, what's motivating him is his ability to control what we ask of him.
Right. Okay. So so this is good. So okay. So the conversation to have with him is one where you detach from it. You and Chris both just detach yourselves from the outcome, from the expectations, and just say, what do you want? What do you want? Like, you are and use the word you're just telling me. You're so talented with your sports. It's so easy for you to do well in school when you put your effort forward. What is your expectation for yourself regarding your grades? And listen to him and see what it is. And the really hard thing for us is that some kids, like, let's say your kid says C's are better. And this actually I got from the learning consultant. She said that all kids are capable of pulling C's or better in our school system. Like, it's and some of them can make B's, some of them can make A's, but everybody should be able to pull C's or better. And some of them are not going to be able to do better than that. Like, some of them are going to struggle to make those C's, but everybody can do it. And we need to find out what each child is, like what they're capable of. And what I'm hearing you say is that he's most likely capable of A's if he put some extra effort into it. And he's probably pulling, a B average this way? And I don't know if you're having too much of an average in 6th grade, but it's going to come soon.
No, like the last report card he has, he got a B in art. Don't you think that's a little bit of effort, art? Got to put a little effort into drawing that.
Right. And everything else is A's?
Yes. But he didn't start out there. He started out bombing at several tests and having to drag himself back out of it.
And how much did he do that, and how much did you do that?
Well, the next several tests were a lot of me trying to say, Jackson, you have to do that. You have to study. You can't just look at a couple questions on the ride to school. Like 3 days before, you need to be sitting down. You need a plan. And all of this is me nagging him. I feel like the biggest nag.
So was it effective? I mean, like when you nagged, did he actually sit down and do work?
He will eventually. I just put a note whenever you said grades were in relationships. Because it's just me being so frustrated with nagging him. It's just like nagging.
Okay.
And he knows that I'm getting frustrated. He's one of those kids that will not do what you ask unless he can get you upset. So I've been
just
really
like my son.
So I've been really trying. You need to go to bed, Jackson. It's time to go to bed. What? No, I'm not going to bed now. I can stay up later. It's time to go to bed. I need more wine. I don't know.
Okay. So he's this is ringing very familiar for me. My son, like I said, he's 27 now, but he still has kind of that same personality where he's actually capable and willing, but he really needs to do things in his own time and his own way for the most part. And and this is the hard time for you, where you're still kind of parenting a young kid, but yet he's coming into teenage
and he wants
years
some independent. Yeah, he does want that stuff, and I see that, and I would like to give that to him.
Yep, that's how you buy it for him. So you sit down with him and you say, I don't like being a nag, and I bet you anything you don't like being a nag. And my observation is when I nag you, you actually do what I say. And I feel like if I didn't nag you, then you wouldn't put that extra effort in. And just let him sit with that for a minute and see any kind of response you get from him. Like, do you get a recognition response? Do you get any laughter? Do you get any affirmative? Do you get any denial? And then take the conversation from there. And what you want to move toward is, how can I'm talking from your standpoint, like I'm you talking to him. How can I fire myself from the job of being your grade monitor? Because I don't like it, because I feel like I'm being a nag, and I don't think you like it or need it, that you're very capable of doing this. And have a discussion with him and try to make some agreements about what he needs to do in order to keep you off his back. And to hear that he got all A's and 1 B in art is, oh my gosh, you are way over worrying this, because he's so capable. And so I would say have a conversation with him, get a bottom line agreement of what grades he's willing to pull. And you guys, I back off on this if you can, in theory, which means like with my kids, when I went through this with the learning consultant, and what she said made so much sense to me. And I said, how about if you guys get C's or better? And, most people just can't even imagine having that as their kind of bottom line. Like, that's terrible. That's not good enough. However, by making that the expectation or the minimum that I expect, I always got more from them, because it was an easy bar for them to meet. And then the pressure was off. The pressure was off of them from me, and so they could just do whatever their natural ability was. And all three of my kids actually had a very good natural ability to pull mostly A's and B's, and with no problem. And I was fine with the B's. It really didn't bother me, because I feel like the people that are most successful in the world don't look back and know what their grades were in elementary school or high school or college. Now, high school is kind of important for going to college, but we can talk about that from another standpoint. And so if you can get this agreement with him, and with him it sounds like C's aren't even needing to be on the table. It would be, B's are better, and just be okay with that, and just know once he's on his own steam, he's probably going to, what you want to do is you want to stop being responsible for his grades, and you want him to be. And it sounds like he most likely will carry the responsibility, because it sounds like he's competitive and he also has objectives in his world. And as you guys start talking about like what he wants to do later, the grades will be important to him to achieve the results that he wants to achieve. So it's not the results that you want him to achieve, it's the results that he needs or wants to achieve for his life. And so once you can have this conversation and make an agreement and then back off, then the results are what would pull you back in. So you'd have to be willing to, quote, fail. So you'd have to be willing to go through a semester where you get to the end and, oh my gosh, a C comes home and you're going to flip out. But that means that he doesn't get the responsibility or the power to be on his own, that he still needs more help from you. And if you see that coming, you don't have to just be totally hands-off. You can say, I noticed you got a really bad grade on that thing, and do you want me to support you in some way? How can I support you? What can I do? Do you want a reminder? Because I bet, Shannon, that if you got a request for him, like if you have this conversation and he goes, I just need you to give me reminders, and he's not going to say it in that way, but whatever part he's getting out of you nagging him, he's getting something out of it, or he wouldn't perpetuate the behavior that causes it. And so maybe it's connection, maybe it's you being involved. Whatever it is, you listen for it, and when you get words from him that he says, I like the reminders, I want you to do X, Y, or Z, you'll be able to do it knowing you're contributing and helping him, and it won't be such a drag for you anymore. Does that make any sense?
No, it does. It does a lot.
Okay. Okay, good. Let me see where the noise is coming from here. Okay, I think I got it there. Okay. So,
thank you for listening to today's Positive Parenting Pep Talks podcast. If you're into season 2 and you're listening to all these great questions that the parents have and answers and ideas for what to do in all these different situations with your kids, please help us out. Like, share, subscribe, and especially leave us a positive review. All of that helps the podcast grow, and I really appreciate it. Thanks again for being here, and happy parenting.